Radio. It's Clear Life Combat. My name is Gardy. It's just after 10 o'clock right here in Galveston County, and I have a guest that's zooming in. I'm going to let her introduce herself, and we're going to find out everything that she has going on. Hey, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm Rebecca Mattison Hughes, Rebecca Mattison. You can find me on Instagram at Beans of Nebula. But yeah, I'm here to talk with Guardy and do combat stuff.
Yeah, exciting. So yesterday was your birthday. Happy birthday. Did you have a good day?
I did. It was awesome. Saw a comedy show, got my hair done, the whole thing.
Yeah, it's the works, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you somebody who exercises and trains on your birthday, or did you kind of take a rest day?
I took a rest day, but only because I woke up with a migraine. So
Yeah. No, your body was telling you needed some rest, and it's your birthday, so
yeah,
got to do what you got
figured
to
out.
do.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so where do you train at, and how long have you been in combat sports?
I'm currently training with John Danaher, who we don't actually have our own physical gym yet. So we're training through RGA Austin and then training at a private gym as well, um, in the midday session. So it's it's a pretty cool setup because you get your um, two classes with just like a normal, jujitsu school that has people coming in. And then you have the private session where everybody there is really focused on, getting better and the goal is to compete. So it's kind of a nice mix of two worlds. And I've been training now. This is starting my seventh year.
Are you from Austin, and did you make that decision? I'm going to go train with John Danaher as soon as they came to Austin.
I'm not from Austin. I'm from Canada. I've been spending the last 6 years of my jiu-jitsu, life coming back and forth from Canada to compete and train actually predominantly in California. But the last 2 years, I've been kind of on a different path. I went and trained with Bernardo Faria for a while, and I tried to. What the plan was I was supposed to be training with Lucas Lepre for the Worlds of the year 2020, but we know 2020 was a bit of a of a little twister. So I ended up going to North Carolina and not actually being able to train at all. He closed his gym all the way down. So um, yeah, I ended up just kind of uh, coming into Austin because my partner is training with John, and it just kind of seemed like a perfect situation to level up my nogi situation.
What was that experience like whenever you first, you got the opportunity, you go down there and start training? What's it like there?
I had only ever watched instructionals for John from John and only really met him a few times before coming into the training environment. And it was nerve wracking for sure. I mean, as a brown belt, I feel like I have like a really decent resume for coming into a new gym. I've been to plenty of gyms. I've been to extremely competitive gyms. I've trained at Atos. I've trained with Cobrinha, and I've trained at high level places. And I think um, just starting on the feet was something that I didn't even like have much experience, even though I've been literally doing this for, straight for like 6 years. Um, just starting off with like no warm up and jumping right into wrestling, I was kind of like a fish out of water. But um, it was, it has been, I mean, only I moved in December right after Nogi Worlds, and it's been an incredible experience. I feel like his level of teaching is just so organized and so structured that it's kind of giving me an idea of where my game's going to be at long term in a year or two, which is something that I never really felt like I was able to understand the picture within the first few months of training with someone. So that's been an incredible experience, just kind of feeling like I'm almost in a university course for my jiu-jitsu compared to just dropping in for, self-defense classes or something like that.
Yeah, you're like getting your doctorate, because that's the way,
Yeah.
John Danaher, I follow him on social media, and just even him making like a status on Facebook, update. I'm like, you learn a lot. There's a lot in there.
Yeah, so that is like what he's when even when he's writing that post, it's right after our pro practice. So Like, you see him, he finishes pro practice, he's like brainstorming before the practice about what he's going to teach, even with the RGA sessions. Like, there's not, he does everything, it seems like, very intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
and teaches intentionally as well. So I think that is something that, if you can read an Instagram post and gain, insight and kind of like an idea into what training with him is like that's just it all day long.
Yeah. Which is honestly refreshing because there's a lot of garbage out there on social media, to be honest. So to see something where you actually gain something, it's very nice.
Yeah. I think it his what he puts out is really valuable, and that's obviously what kind of brought me to wanting to train there. Um, and then you're just surrounded by really high level guys, and the the energy is kind of palpable for sure.
So you're going to be competing in Texas City at the Booker T World Gym Arena, and that's for Submissions on the Shore. It's taking place March 19th. It's at ADCC rule set. What do you know about this event? Have you competed for Submissions on the Shore before, and are you excited for it?
I have never done submission on the shore. This will be my first competition doing ADCC rule set specifically, which is I'm excited about because I want to be primed for the ADCC trials. And that's really like something we've been doing in training every day is an ADCC round. So I'm getting more familiar with it, and it's getting me really excited to kind of play by those rules. And I have actually just a super fight. I'm not inside of the bracket, so I'm looking forward to kind of being able to just focus on one person, one match. That's something that I haven't really had too much experience with either. I'm usually going to tournaments where I'm going to have 4 or 5 fights to win. So having just one is kind of like almost a relief. It's like you just got to do it one time, and I am really excited to do that. Yeah.
You coming from Canada and growing up there, did you play sports or were you in any combat sports or anything else like that?
I had no combat experience. I did have growing up. I have 8 or 7 siblings now, but really kind of in that early age was 2 older sisters and 2 younger sisters. So I was kind of in the middle of I don't a pretty physical upbringing, I would call it.
Yeah.
5 girls, 1 bathroom. It makes for a little bit of war, but no, I did dance. I didn't have any combat prerequisites, and I didn't start until I was about 21 years old. So if you do the math, it was my birthday yesterday. I turned 29.
Yeah. Did the dance background help you?
I think so. I think it helps just watching somebody do something and wanting to like emulate what they're doing. The difference is that you're not playing it back in a mirror. So usually when you're watching in like choreography and dances, there's a mirror on the wall and you're watching that person kind of do what you do in mirror view. And in jiu-jitsu, you have to translate it so that it's not like that. But I think it really did help. It didn't prepare me for like being in a fight, but it did prepare me for learning, the steps to techniques for sure.
Yeah. So growing up, did you want to be like a dancer, or what was it that you were aspiring to be? Like, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I've just always been really interested in the arts. I think that's like dabbling in every little thing I could do, like drawing, painting, ceramics, sculpture, all of it. Dance wasn't ever anything like when I was a little girl that I was like, oh, I want to be like a professional dancer. And I think when I was talking about this the other day, when you turn like 18, you don't really, unless you want to go pro, you don't really dance anymore. Like, it's just like you go off to college, you do something else. And that's what happened. I went off to college, did something else, art related, and eventually kind of fell into psychology. And that's where I met someone who got me into jiu-jitsu. So it's kind of, it's not something like, oh, I knew about jiu-jitsu and I wanted to do it. It's like I heard about jiu-jitsu. A few months later, I was doing it. And a few months later, I was going to the, Worlds in Long Beach. It was like a pretty small amount of time that I escalated quite extremely.
So you picked it up pretty quick.
Yeah, I really liked it. I didn't know I was going to. I just kind of made a commitment to try and ended up like really, really enjoying it.
So the psychology side, is that what you studied or you pursued, and does that help in your training or competing?
I don't know if it really like I didn't finish my education, so I can't really be like, oh yeah, my master's in psychology is helping totally understand. But I do think that that's what attracted me to jujitsu in general, is just wanting to know how the mind works. And I think seeing people's like even individual cases like response to fight or flight and being exposed to that on a daily basis is a really important, just for the human spirit. And that's kind of what hooked me. So I mean, between doing arts my whole life, being interested in psychology and philosophy, martial arts kind of, I didn't, unbeknownst to me, it was kind of like my niche. And I'm also an extremely competitive person. So it just kind of fit right into all of the things that I really enjoy doing.
I guess picking up on the sport pretty quickly, is that something that you've shared with other people, whether through coaching or helping people online as well?
Um, I think so. It's more so like what I want to provide with online coaching is exactly kind of what I'm getting from John now, is some structure and some guidance as to what your game is going to look like, or what even jujitsu is. And I think when when we start jujitsu, there's not really a lot of talk of like what your game is. There's a lot of talk of color of belts, like, oh, I'll become a blue belt, I'll become a purple belt, I'll become a brown, a black. But people don't really have an idea of the technique that's involved or the style that they want to develop. Um, and if they do, they don't really know how to get there. Like you'll see a white belt talk about like, oh, I really want to get good at barambolos. It's like, okay, let's bridge the gap. Like how are you going to get there? Just with your one professor trying to take care of his 150 plus members and his own life. So that's kind of what I saw in jiu-jitsu, is we're a little bit lagging. The way I kind of explain it is, in fitness classes, you're like, let's just say like a group kettlebell class. There's 30 people in the class, you're all doing the techniques, cool, everybody's getting fitter, everybody's learning kettlebell. But in jiu-jitsu, it's a little bit harder for one person to guide an entire group, because it's not just about getting the rep in, it's about developing timing and style and what works for your body, and everybody's extremely different in their learning. So I wanted to provide a more one-on-one experience, and I think that just comes from understanding how school works, and understanding how I learned was not necessarily just sitting in class. It was more like taking that study group out and really focusing with just a few individuals on how I want to understand a concept. And I think that's something that jujitsu can really benefit from. And we've seen it I was lucky. It kind of, I started doing this over the pandemic. And that was something that was a blessing in disguise, because a lot of people who were already teaching in person and who had really large schools and that kind of thing had to adapt at the same time that I was learning how to do this. So it was kind of a cool pivot to see everybody do, and people understand and learn how to move in a direction of learning remotely and learning online, and even just doing more research instead of just showing up to class.
So you'd be able to work with somebody from anywhere. It doesn't have to be in
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, pretty well. So it's a really cool experience. I've had some clients now since that beginning of that year. So we're like 2.5 in. I've seen their belt color change. I've seen them stop getting smashed in side control, so it's kind of cool to like have a school without having a school.
Yeah. So who would you say is your ideal client? Like if somebody's listening or hearing this, and you could kind of list some things and be like, oh, that's me. I need to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel if you're a person who wants to level up and really, like, for me, my course is called Becoming the Artist, because I want you to feel like it's not just me handing you ABC techniques, it's you actually developing a style. So if you're white and blue belt, is a really good time to start kind of molding what you want that to look like, and getting some help for that. So I think if you're in a school that that you feel the structure is lacking. And the thing I don't like about explaining my ideal client is because a lot of time it's because their professor doesn't give a shit. It's because like their guys just showing up, showing a technique, sitting on his phone while they're sparring. And the problem is, like, I don't want to gain, clientele because I'm talking shit about how people are teaching and what they're doing. But you can even have someone in a good school just need more individual attention. Um, So that's really, I think, where you have to make a decision as an individual, like what resources can I use? Can I use YouTube? Can I use one of these online coaches? And I'm not the only one. There's plenty of people out here that have multiple ways to show you. There's instructionals. I mean, BJJ Fanatics is one of them. I have products on that site, and it just kind of depends on the learner. If you need more help, like that's what I'm there to do. I'm there to structure your training, give you feedback, watch your competition footage, watch your rolling footage. That's what I do.
What other kind of art are you into?
I would say everything. Like I love comedy, I love painting, I love drawing, I love all of it. So it's it's kind of a funny thing to think about now, because I remember being in art school and being like, oh my God, this is such bullshit. Like there's so much like there's so much like stuff that doesn't really resonate with me, which is I think why like real life skill building with jiu-jitsu or something like where you have an opponent is a little bit more realistic, and I like that. I like the reality of art, the reality of like having a challenge and still trying to have a style through that.
So after Submissions on the Shore, which is taking place March 19th in Texas City, what does the rest of this year competition-wise look like for you?
So I have one before the March 19th. I have Dallas, which is I think the 6th, the IBJJF Dallas Open. Then I'll be doing the ADCC trials, and after that, I'll just be trying to get any kind of no-gi experience leading up until no-gi Worlds. And that's kind of the go so far. So I've kind of put the gi off for this year, and really trying to focus on sharpening my leg locks up.
All right. So I guess you mentioned your standing, kind of lacking. Is that something that you're working on as well?
For sure, every day. I don't really have a choice. We start on the feet every day.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
I think we got it covered, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So if you want to, you're able to watch Rebecca. She's going to be competing at Submissions on the Shore, taking place in Texas City. You can also follow her on social media. And what is your Instagram again?
Beans of Nebula.
What does that mean?
It's just something my dad like made up when I was a kid. He said I was a bean that fell from a nebula to the world. I started growing, and that's how I came. I didn't get the birds and the bees talk. That's how I figured out that I made it here to Earth.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, so follow her on social media. Rebecca, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.